Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another special webinar we are hosting. Tonight is all about Nicaragua. We're going to be doing a wonderful 101 session. I'm Joe Nagel, the MC for tonight, and we have our special guest, Michael Cobb. He will be doing a little bit more of the talking, but before we start, we just want to give people a minute here to get logged in. I know every time I go on Zoom, it's always asking for updates, so I will give people a couple seconds here. But just to give a little bit of ground rules, so to speak, and logistics, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. So during the session, if there's anything Mike says that's quite thought-provoking that you have questions about or want to know more about, feel free to put that in that Q&A chat box. And once Mike's done talking, we'll circle back with some questions that are being asked to get those addressed live. But with that being said, like I said, Mike is our special guest. I'll turn that over to Mike to take us away on our talk about Nicaragua 101.
Very good. Well, thank you, Joe, and nice to be back with everybody. Tremendous turnout today. So a lot of folks obviously interested in Nicaragua, and what I'm going to do here is get my screen shared for everybody. So give me just a moment and get that plugged in, and we'll start this up. Joe, you're seeing, right? You can see this?
Yep. Loud and clear.
All right. Loud and clear. All right. All right. Yeah, I think some of you all know that that I actually lived in Nicaragua. I lived in Nicaragua for 14 years. I moved there with my wife, Carol, my 2-year-old daughter, Amanda. And we moved there for what we thought would be, I don't know, like 2-3 years, right? I mean, just a kind of a short stint of time to get the Gran Pacifica community started, launched, put a team in place. And after about 3 years, Carol and I went out to dinner one night, and we made a list of all the reasons that we wanted to stay in Nicaragua and all the reasons that we wanted to go back to the U.S. And at the end of the evening, the answer was very clear. We wanted to stay in Nicaragua, and it was a choice at that point. And we ended up staying for a total of 14 years. Nicaragua truly is a wonderful, wonderful place to live. It was a great place to raise a family. We had a second little daughter, Emily, came along. And so, we raised a family there. We became part of the community. And I hope that at the end of this presentation, you'll understand some of the reasons why we chose to live in Nicaragua for 14 years. And you may want to come visit. And part of the presentation today, at the very end, we'll just talk about a discovery tour that we're having. In fact, I'm excited about the discovery tour because it's just in a couple weeks. So if you want to go on the discovery tour, please let us know immediately. Let Joe know immediately. The reason this one is fun is I lead one discovery tour every year. And I love leading them because basically I get to go back to Nicaragua. I'm there 5 or 6 times a year anyway, but I get to go back and I get to show some folks who are interested in the country what it was like to live there. So we go to some of my favorite restaurants. We go to some of my favorite places. We go to a beautiful coffee plantation up in the cloud forest. The folks there that own it are very, very dear friends of ours. And we spend time at the beach. We spend time in the 500-year-old colonial city. So if after this webinar, you think, gosh, I really would like to come down and check out Nicaragua. If you can do it a couple weeks from now, I guess about 3 weeks from now, it's August 13 to 19. We have 10 folks registered and we cap it at 15. So there are 5 more spots available, 5 more people. So it'd be 2 couples and a single, right? So if it's something that you want to do, you got to let Joe know immediately. And actually, I don't have it up here, but the email address is webinar@ecidevelopment.com. So at any point during this, if you want more information about the discovery tour, send him a note. Let him know that. And by the way, you don't have to come on the discovery tour. You can come anytime. We have wonderful folks there. We have a beautiful resort community you can come and plug into for a few days, a few weeks, a few months. Many folks decide that they want to rent before they buy. And that's always a wise and prudent decision. Check it out, spend some time, make friends in the community and see if it's a place that you want to be. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to talk broadly about Nicaragua. Then we're going to kind of bring it down to Gran Pacifica. We're going to talk about lifestyle. We're going to talk about some very, very important design features on some of the homes that really give a very low EMF. Some of the folks here I know know exactly what that is on this webinar tonight. A very low EMF living condition, which is tremendously healing if you've been sickened by EMF, but also just beautiful homes by the beach as well. So here we go. Let's jump in. Our company was founded in 1999. I always like to talk about that because, a lot of companies come, a lot of companies go, but, we've been around for 28 years at this point. We build beautiful homes for adventurous souls. And if you're on this webinar, if you're even thinking about Nicaragua or overseas at all, you're an adventurous soul. And we're really, really glad to have you with us, and maybe we can help you with a beautiful home somewhere overseas. Again, we've been around a long time. We actually work in 7 countries now. We own property in 5 countries: Belize, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and Portugal, of all places. And then we have joint ventures in Honduras and El Salvador as well. But the company has a lot of assets, a lot of beachfront real estate, and most importantly for you, proof of concept. We've done this, we continue to do it, and we're very, very good at what we do. And the reason we're good at what we do is we have a great team of folks. Myself here, my business partner, Joel Nagel, a great group of professionals in everything from development to marketing to accounting to finance, customer service, across the board. A tremendous team of people who get the job done day in and day out. And that's what's important. Here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover why Nicaragua. Well, you're here, so hopefully you already have some sense of maybe why Nicaragua would be right for you. Living and investing, what are some of the considerations? What are some of the important factors there? Gran Pacifica is the community, and then the affordability, of course. Nicaragua, if you're not really familiar, it's a very large country. It's the largest country in Central America. It has Honduras to the north. It has Costa Rica to the south, 2 coastlines. About 3/4 of the population live along the Pacific coast, within about 100 miles of the Pacific coast. So most of the population on the western side of the country. And to give you some idea of geographically, the eastern side is a lot of lowlands, a lot of rainforest, a lot of jungle. The Pacific side is a very unique geography, semi-arid tropical. We have a dry season that's about 7-8 months out of the year where it almost never rains. And then we have 4 to 5 months of rainy season where it can rain every day. It doesn't rain every day, but it could rain any day. And I like to give some sense of reference on this. And, this was actually developed for investors and not so much for folks looking for a lifestyle. But I'm going to talk about this in terms of lifestyle because I imagine that most folks looking at Nicaragua are really thinking about a lifestyle decision. They want to go there. They want to have a home that they can use maybe for vacation, perhaps live full time, right? Or buy something in anticipation of having it for later when they want to live there full time or most of the year. The curve here is really a sense of popularity, and that's how I put the various countries and locations within a country on this curve. I just simply said to myself, if a couple in Des Moines, Iowa got married this weekend, where would they go on their honeymoon, next week, right? So you look at Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Costa Rica, right? Lots of honeymooners going to those locations. Not very many honeymooners headed to El Salvador, Honduras, or Nicaragua. And this is important because popularity of a destination means several different things. From an investment standpoint, it means the boxes on the left, the cash flow, things like that. But from a lifestyle perspective, what it also means is you're moving to a country that's not as developed. Now, I like that personally. I like the rawness. I like the rough around the edges. To me, that's an attribute. That's a good thing. But if you're a Ritz-Carlton kind of person, Nicaragua is probably not for you. If you're looking for the 4 seasons, go to Costa Rica, right? It's a different. You can see it's much higher up on the curve there, right? So I just like to say this up front because Nicaragua is not for everyone. Like to be very clear about that. But it is for many people. And if having a sense of adventure, if having things a little on the rougher side, a little on the rawer side, appeals to you, then Nicaragua really might be a good fit. And it's actually one of the reasons we talk about coming to visit before you buy, right? You want to come, you want to see it. Like I love the fact that you can be driving down the road and all of a sudden there's three cowboys on horses, taking some cows across the road and up, across the field or whatever. I love that. I think it's tremendous. It feels good to me. But if those kinds of things, don't work for you, that's important to know as well. But the folks who at least consider Nicaragua generally kind of know what they're getting into, so to speak. But obviously, a visit's the most important thing. We're going to talk about all these, so I'm not going to read these now. We're going to hit them one at a time. But why Nicaragua? The country is safe. I lived there with my wife and my two daughters for 14 years. And if you just look at some of the stats, right? Nicaragua ranks first as the country that has the increased happiness levels, right? That's one thing, but safety. All right, here it is. Nicaragua's the green little box there. And if you look at, Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, they're all pretty close, under 10, and they all kind of hover about that year after year. That's so nobody would really think about Nicaragua being as safe as Costa Rica and Panama year after year after year, but it is. But then you look at a place like Cleveland, Ohio, or St. Louis, right? Like nobody would be afraid to go to, Cleveland, right? People go to Cleveland all the time. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is there, right? So people go to Cleveland. But many of those people wouldn't consider Nicaragua, of course, right? So safety as a factual basis is there. But this is my wife, Carol, my daughter, Amanda, way back when, 2002, when we first moved there. And look, I took my family there. I traveled a lot for business while we were living there. And in 14 years, we never once had a problem. Our families came down. We had another little daughter. We raised them. We had a great life. We watched football games. The girls were part of Girl Scouts and dance. We had a tremendous life in Nicaragua. And that's possible. And it was the blending of these kinds of things that I would say kind of the sort of the North American stuff that we'd left behind when we moved with the kinds of Nicaraguan things that just made it wonderful. We spent tons of time at the beach. We would go and collect turtle eggs and take them up onto the beach for the environmental folks. This is that Chacocente. This is long before we as a company were doing it. Like, we helped save baby turtles. We'd take the eggs and take them into a preserve area where they would, bury them again, and then would hatch and go back to the ocean. My wife and daughters would camp out at the beach many, many times over the years. And I felt very comfortable with that. And when I was with them, I felt comfortable. And when I wasn't there, when I was in another country and they were camping at the beach, I felt very, very comfortable as well. And I always like to say it's, safety is what you make of it. Behavior certainly impacts safety. If you're out, looking for trouble at, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, lit up pretty well, you might find it. Right? Or if you decide you want to set the speed record on the volcano boarding, you might end up like me. So I didn't break the record, but I had a good time trying. The point of this is there are lots of fun things to do. The country itself, from a crime perspective, is safe, but it can be as adventurous as you want it to be as well. Affordable real estate. Yeah. This is just one example, and we'll talk about, some more specifics later, but here's a 1-bedroom, kind of oceanfront condo in California. This was the least expensive 1-bedroom condo I could find in California on the water, $1 million, right? Same thing in Nicaragua for under $200,000. And in California, they quickly go from $1 million to, $3, $4, $5 million very, very quickly. So you can see the affordability in the cost difference. Homes at Gran Pacifica and around the country from, $150,000 to, $500,000 for some really, really beautiful properties. But the acquisition cost of a property is really only the start of things. The acquisition cost, okay, now you own it. What does it actually cost to live there, right? What is the affordability? And it's insanely inexpensive. I just can't even, I have examples. I got a couple more examples coming up. But when we lived in Nicaragua, we spent easily 1/3 or 1/4 of what we would have spent in the States. I mean, a third for sure, a quarter probably. And so we lived a great life. And, I mean, here's a great example. Like they have beautiful, beautiful stores like they have in the US, right? And, glitzy, polished, shiny, and, cabinets full of cheeses and meats and all that kind of stuff, right? But they're US priced. On the other hand, if you run down to the to local farmers market, you can get organic fruits, vegetables. You can get hormone-free cheeses, eggs, meats. You'll get fish right out of the ocean, and you can get these produce and these products so inexpensively, far cheaper than shopping at the supermarket. So where you shop makes a difference, right? And I bet that many of you are thinking to yourself, well, I would very rarely, if ever, go to the supermarket. I'd be headed to the farmer's market, and that's right. I mean, I think that's how we get this high quality of life for very low cost of living. There's so much to do and see in Nicaragua. There are literally festivals every weekend somewhere in the country, and sometimes midweek, and depending on the city, the days they fall, a lot of religious holidays, Catholic holidays, but horse parades and rodeos, and just all kinds of festivals and historic sites and great things to do. Somoto Canyon down on the right there. It's a beautiful canyon you can inner tube up into or canoe up into, and you can climb up and jump off the cliffs. Obviously, the beaches in the Pacific for surfing and things like that. The beaches on the Caribbean for diving and snorkeling, and great fishing in the rivers as well. So incredible, just activities galore. And again, everything is very inexpensive to do, which makes it easy to do the kinds of things you love to do, because you're never really sweating like, oh, how much is it going to cost? Not much. Investment in the country. Just a couple points on this, really important. In fact, extremely important. The two here are on the left side. No restriction on foreign ownership. None, right? Many countries, Mexico, Honduras, Argentina, these are three countries that actually have constitutional prohibitions of foreigners owning property with, along their borders, which is also the coastline, right? And so Nicaragua treats foreigners and domestics the same in their constitution regarding property ownership. That is so important, right? Property tax is very low, and then title itself, right? Escritura publica, which is the civil law version of fee simple title, public title, escritura publica, public title. So again, these are the elements that we need to look at as foreign investors, because they're critically important, that when we buy a property, like we actually get title to it, we own it, and we're protected under the law with that ownership as well. Many kinds of visa programs. The two easiest ones to talk about is the pensionado program or pensioner program. It's very age easy. If you're 45 or older, you qualify as a retiree, so to speak. You have to be able to show $600 a month for income. They don't want you to move down there and become a ward of the state. But if you've got any kind of pension income, Social Security, investment income that shows more than $600 a month, you qualify for this visa, this permanent residency visa program. And then they have an investor program. If you're younger than 45, or you want flexibility in how often you come to the country and leave the country, the investor visa is an easy way to go. It's a $30,000 minimum investment. We have a teak reforestation program in Nicaragua that qualifies for this investment purpose, and then you become a temporary resident for 5 years, and then you become a permanent resident after that. Joe has information on both of these visa programs and how they might work in your specific case. Living in Nicaragua, well, get to know Nicaragua like a local, right? I mean, like spend some time, if get around. I mean, Granada is the picture there on the kind of the left side. That's a 500-year-old colonial city. San Juan del Sur is a beautiful beach town, beautiful beaches, beautiful mountains, cloud forest, coffee plantations, right? The word is getting out. More and more people are coming to Nicaragua because, this idea of safety and danger, like this is the hangover from the news media of the 1980s. And I know many of us on this webinar, especially, like, we understand what the news media is. It's just a propaganda outlet, right? And so, whatever we heard in the 80s, we haven't heard much since then. And so Right, because if it bleeds, it leads. And yes, Nicaragua had a horrible civil war in the late 1970s and into the 1980s. But that war ended, what's that, 40 years ago or something? Yeah, 40 years ago. Anyway, Nicaragua, the word is getting out, and the more people that come and see it and have great experiences that talk about it, this is a place you have to visit to really see. And this is, I mean, think about a 500-year-old city. I mean, it's spectacular, beautiful architecture, beautiful community, a lot of wonderful folks. You have Leon, Managua, Masaya, Granada, different places around the country with different kinds of geography, different kinds of activities. The volcano boarding, which is a favorite of mine. I love it. Volcanic crater lakes, active volcanoes you can climb around and look down in. If you're a surfer, some of the best surfing in all of Central America is in Nicaragua. The waves are phenomenal. In fact, we actually have one of the top 10 waves in Central America called the meat grinder. The thing that makes Nicaragua surfing so great is the waves are uncrowded. You're rarely waiting for a wave because there's very few people out there. So if surfing is something you're into, Nicaragua would definitely be a place to check out. Again, lots of festivals and activities and fun things to do all over the country. Gran Pacifica is our community that we started building back in the year 2000. I moved there in 2002 with my wife and daughter, and we built out this wonderful community along 3.5 miles of beach. And I think that's hard sometimes for people to really get their head around. I know it was for us as a developing group. We came in and we said, goodness, I mean, 3.5 miles of beach, the property's a mile deep. I mean, that's really a small town when you get right down to it. And so we actually hired an urban planner to help us figure it out, right? Because when you're building a small town, getting the planning right up front absolutely matters. Everything from your infrastructure to your streets to your right of ways for different neighborhoods, many different neighborhoods, right? I mean, it's 2,500 acres, right? I mean, it's a lot of land, so you have a lot of different neighborhoods. And I'll talk about the infrastructure more later, but I just want to make a point. Like back in 2003, we made a decision. What's that? Like 21 years ago? Yeah, 21 years ago. We made a decision to put in fiber optic cable because it was the absolute fastest and best way to deliver internet to the home, fiber to the home. We were the first fiber to the home network in all of Central America. And we got some great press and some PR from it, from the company we worked with and from news media and stuff like that. And now we fast forward to last year, 2023, 20 years after that, we were sought out by a group of folks looking for a wired community, a fiber wired community, and we are. And so it was tremendous, I guess, serendipity or coming of events, which was tremendous. The climate at Gran Pacifica is Southern California. It's semi-arid about 8 months out of the year. The temperatures are in the 80s and 90s, very, very dry. About 5 months out of the year, the temperature's in the 80s, and it's rainy season. It's kind of like Florida, maybe more like with the afternoon thunder showers and things like that. Gran Pacifica is the closest beach to the ocean, easy to get to, paved road the whole way. And I know that sounds like a duh, like because we're driving around the US or wherever it's paved road, right? But in many parts of Central and South America, the roads are not paved. And so that's actually a very important thing. It makes access to Gran Pacifica year round, rainy season, dry season, and makes it convenient, easy, and fast, which is important. There is a community. We've got almost 200 homes. I think we have 180 homes completed. We have another 40 or so that will finish up by the end of the year. We'll be sitting at about 220, 225 residences by this time next year, certainly by January. And so there is this community. There's already people living there. There's a wonderful community of folks. And when that's why we encourage you to come visit, come down and be a part of it, meet some folks and kind of see if you fit in with this community. And many of you will. Not everyone, but many of you will, because you have a sense of adventure, a real spirit of adventure, right? But you also are free thinkers. I know I speak at a lot of conferences, and a lot of you with me today here came from some of the conferences that I speak at. And I've said this in conferences, I've said this one-on-one. Like if we had this discussion about moving to Nicaragua, or some of the discussions that we have at conferences, or some of the presenters that make presentations, and we tried to talk about that in our hometown, right? With our physical next door neighbor, one direction or the other, most of us probably can't do that because they wouldn't understand it. In fact, they might even really kind of reject it, right? When you come to Gran Pacifica, what you're going to find is a lot of folks who you will have a meeting of the minds with. It is a community of people who share similar philosophies and ideologies. It's not the same, it's similar. We're all different, of course, but very accepting of ideas and concepts that many folks in North America probably simply reject out hand. So neighborhoods for everyone. That's really what we're talking about. Lots of different neighborhoods. We have, very tight architectural covenant restriction neighborhoods. We have large home neighborhoods. We have small home neighborhoods. We have a tiny home neighborhood. And now we're working on an Isla neighborhood, which is the low EMF neighborhood as well. So again, different neighborhoods fitting different price points, fitting different types of home styles, because, people want different things, right? Different strokes for different folks. And the fact that we've been around a long time, we have homes, we have people, we have neighbors, we have amenities, we have places for people to get together and do things together, restaurants and clubhouses and tennis courts. We have these are the brand new neighborhood, these off-grid homes and the oceanfront homes there, finishing up right now through the end of the year. Beautiful oceanfront condominiums overlooking the meat grinder. This is a very popular tourist area for surfers because these condos look right out on one of the top 10 surf breaks in all of Central America. There's a view from one of the balconies. The neighborhoods, we get in there, we plant a lot of trees, and we create wonderful shady sidewalks for people to walk along. And when you're walking along a sidewalk, you'll bump into other folks and you'll meet your neighbors. And when you meet your neighbors, community can happen. I've got, I think later I've got some ideas of home designs, but I put this slide specifically here for this reason, because a lot of times we live in North America, it's cold a lot of the year, or we don't spend a lot of time outside. Much of your living environment in Nicaragua will be outdoors, which is why people build these beautiful second story, doesn't have to be second story, first story, second story, outdoor living spaces, kitchens that open to the outside, big living room areas with all-weather furniture, because you will spend a lot of time outside and you'll want to spend a lot of time outside. And so recognizing this as part of the design process, if you want to build your own home, for example, is critically important to start to think about, yeah, I'm going to be living outside a lot of time. Really, really important. Gran Pacifica, some of the specifics on some of the homes. Again, many different neighborhoods with urban planning in mind. People, we think about cars and traffic, and when you've got 3.5 miles of beach and 2,500 acres, you can get some traffic issues if you're not thinking about that up front. And so we hired really, really smart urban planners to help us with those types of infrastructure issues. Different home designs, lots of different home designs. You'll see solar panels up on the top of this home, kind of hidden from view, lots of hardwoods, lots of concrete. We'll talk about why that's important in a few minutes on the health issues. The Isla Village is the brand new neighborhood. And I hope that many of you are certainly thinking about this based on a lot of the conferences that I present at. It seems like this is something that a lot of people are interested in, the low EMF neighborhood. Just an idea of what it'll look like. It's about 83, 84 homes, I think. And it's about 500 yards, 600 yards from the beach. So it's very, very close to the ocean. It's off the water, so it delivers a lot of affordability. We will have an off-site solar farm. So we'll have the solar panels off-site connected to the homes. It'll be connected to the grid as well. So it'll really be a hybrid type of system. And this is Kathy Cook. And if you all have ever heard of her, she is a phenomenal building biologist. And she's been down a couple times now. She's done measurements. She's done a lot of testing. And if you see these numbers, if they mean anything to you, under 10 microwatt per square meter in most areas of this neighborhood area for Isla. So again, we have her full report. If you are concerned about EMF, ask us. We'd love to provide you with her full report. It's full of technical data, readings, and if you're concerned about this, you will certainly understand that. Small homes starting at $182,000. This is the front of the home, lots of outdoor living space as well. Larger single family homes, and then the oceanfront homes and homes are just off the water, 100, 200 yards off the water. Again, the price point starting, under $175,000. I know, Joe, you have some home specials that you'll talk about here at the end as well, more specifically, but this is just to give you some idea of the homes that are available. And then, how do we live, right? How do we live, right? The fishing, the surfing, horseback riding, if you care about health, yoga and spa, things like that. I mean, it's all there, and it's really very, very easy to do and very, very affordable to do. This is Grant and Sasha, who are owners at Gran Pacifica. They really are our on-site concierge. They do a lot of work with the folks coming in on the EMF side of things. That Grant has done a tremendous amount of experimenting with different building materials. He's brought in Faraday fabric and other types of things to experiment to enhance what is already a very low EMF environment. So he's done a lot of the work, a lot of the experimentation on different products and different mixes of products and things like that. So you'll get a chance to meet Grant, his wife Sasha, and their little dog Whiskey as well when you come down. They are just tremendous folks, and if you do come down, you will get a chance to meet and spend some time with them as well. We do a lot of work in the community. We work with a Rotary group. We actually started a Rotary club at Gran Pacifica. We do a lot of work with various organizations, whether it's environmental groups cleaning up, gardening and food production, medical groups, dental groups. We actually have a sea turtle sanctuary. My girls loved working at the national park, helping to save baby turtles. And so as we developed Gran Pacifica, we made an area just off the beach to raise, or not raising, you dig the eggs and bury them and they hatch, right? So it's a hatchery, I guess. But basically to preserve the eggs from poaching. The eggs are sought after by folks because they're a delicacy, and so we'll get the eggs when the mama lays them, bring them up onto our land, and then put them back in the ground. And 90 days later, roughly, the baby turtles hatch, which is so cool. And here's some folks who came down for Christmas having a ball. This is a turtle release party. The baby turtles headed back to the ocean. Tons of fun. People love it. People really, really love it. And we've literally saved thousands and thousands of turtles from being eaten at this point. So, good things happening. And it's fun. We've got tennis courts, we've got soccer courts. Everyone, gets around on a golf cart or a bike. Tons of events there, people getting married, people having other kinds of events, lots of agriculture. This is one of our neighborhoods, the Mila neighborhood. It's got plantains, it's got many kinds of fruit trees growing in the common areas. So we're taking those areas that would otherwise be areas that many communities mow, right? They plant grass and they mow them, and we're actually planting food. And the food is for you, the owners. It's part of the homeowner's land. It's common area. And so in fact, we have a big, huge mango orchard as well. We have oranges, soursop, noni. We've got tons of different kinds of fruits and vegetables that are being grown. And so residents can just go pick and pick their fill and enjoy. We have a farmer's market that comes every week. We have one that comes every other week. So we actually have two farmers market. We have cattle on the property, and I know the kids love to go milk a cow maybe for the first time. We have a ton of hives. I don't know the hive count anymore. When we started, it was like 4 or 6 hives. Now it's probably 15 or 18 hives producing a ton of honey on the property. And then right up the beach, about 10 miles away is a fishing village where literally every morning, 20, 30 boats pull in with absolute fresh fish. And some of the residents will, take orders for other people to run down. You got to get there early. You got to get there at 5:30 in the morning. But you can just pick your fish and bring it home and eat it up with the organic fruits and vegetables. So incredible lifestyle, incredibly inexpensive. This is our mango orchard. I think there may be 100 trees, more mangoes than anyone can eat ever. So again, people are making jam with it, doing some stuff, dehydrating it, I think, as well. One of the partnerships that we're exploring right now is the Food Forest Abundance with Jim Gale. You might know that name. I went to Florida last year and spent some time with him and Matthew and some of the folks in his network to understand what the Food Forest Abundance Program is and how a food forest works. We actually will be offering this starting next year for folks who decide they want to have a food forest in their yard. So again, instead of planting grass in your yard, you actually plant a food forest in your yard. We're going to do one as an example on the property, and then folks that like it can have one for themselves as well. But this idea of food sustainability is really important, and growing your own food and knowing that it is truly organic and pesticide free. These are important things for many people. And when we take control of that ourselves, and we have our own food forest, or we have the common areas are being taken care of in this fashion too, and we have access to those foods, it really makes life special and wonderful. Give you some idea of some of the homes just that can be built. These are some of the homes that currently exist there. Just spectacular location, many different designs. The architectural covenants and restrictions, are significant, but you can see every one of these homes is very, very different and unique. And that's what we want. We don't want cookie cutter 3 style of homes and everybody, it's the walls, right? You go to some neighborhoods and it's the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? As you drive down the street, every home at Gran Pacifica is different, but yet they blend harmoniously together. Again, the outdoor living space, so important. Lots of people spending time outside to enjoy the great weather. This is one of our newest residences, right on the ocean. Beautiful, beautiful home. I think, Joe, you've got one of these properties that will be offered up as well. And just again, some ideas of what's possible. Some pictures of my daughters out having some good time playing in the water. If you're into golf, there's a golf course there. Horseback riding on the beach, something that's really, really rare in the US anymore, in Canada. So, liberty, freedom, and I'll just say this as well. One of the reasons I loved living in Nicaragua was the liberty and the freedom of living there. You can ride horses on the beach. You can take your dog to the beach. When they didn't have business closures, they didn't have all kinds of mandates. Nicaragua remained a very, very free country. It treats people who live there as adults. You make your own decisions. You take your own risk. And if you like living in a freer environment, which I'm sure many of you actually do, Nicaragua really may be a very good choice for you. So we'd love for you to come down and check us out. I think the next slide, no, one more. Let me just mention this, and then we'll get to the end here. We'll put up the website address, and Joe can talk about a couple properties that are there for ownership right now. But we do take crypto. We started taking crypto 6-7 years ago. We were the first development company, one of the first maybe in the world. We were certainly the first in Central America to take crypto, and we still do. So if you have crypto and you want to use it for any or all of your property ownership, we certainly can do that. Self-directed IRA funds, if you're a US citizen, you can use a self-directed IRA. The only consideration there is that it must be for investment. You can't use it if it's inside your IRA. We do have financing as well. We work with a bank that provides up to 80% financing for folks that want to own a property with us. By the way, we take crypto, but we also take metals. A lot of folks have used metals to make their down payment or payment in full for some of their properties with us as well. So crypto, gold, silver, financing's available. So we really have tried to make it as easy as possible for folks to become one of our owners, one of our neighbors with us. And this is the dates of the next Discovery Tour. I guess it's about 3 weeks from now, August 13 to 19. I will be leading it. Again, it's a fun time. It's 6 days traveling around the country. I'll be leading it. We'll be going to some of my favorite restaurants, some of my favorite sites. And really just giving you the chance to see Nicaragua up close, personal. You'll meet lots of folks, we bring in some lawyers to talk about residency. We go to the hospital. We go, we go to the colonial city. We go to the mountains and the cloud forest, right? So you'll really have and we'll go to the beach as well. 5 spots left, 10 folks coming. We cap it at 15. If you're interested, that's how you get a hold of Joe. Webinar at ecidevelopment.com. And, let Joe know if you'd like to join us on the Discovery Tour, or if that date doesn't work and you want to come down in September, October, or January, or, whenever, we'll certainly help you to do that as well. We love for folks to come visit. We love for folks to come check it out, see what they think with their own eyes, and judge things through their own lens of experience. And if it's a good fit, great. We'd love to have you as a neighbor. And if it doesn't fit, that's okay too. I can promise you that if you come to Nicaragua, you will have a wonderful, wonderful vacation, a wonderful trip. You'll meet some really great people. And, if that's the worst thing that happens, that's a pretty good day. So, Joe, back to you, man. I guess we got some Q&A going here too, but
Yeah,
I think maybe you had a couple things to share.
Yeah, certainly. And just so everyone knows, I'll be on the Discovery Tour as well. So we'll all get to hang out. It'll be a tremendous time. Usually there's a lot of fun things that happen. And by the end of it, everyone's, best friends and has their contacts shared with each other because, everyone wants to stay in touch. So highly recommend it. Like Mike said, if you're not able to join those specific dates, just let us know when you're in town. We have a team there, so certainly can show you around. But yeah, we do have a lot of questions. I see one of the first questions is talking about property. We are a development company and do build a lot of these communities from scratch, so to speak. But we do have a couple opportunities available now. If someone's interested, they've been there, maybe they've followed us for a while. 2 of them are in the Ava tiny home communities. We have some of those models. They start just under 200,000 for unfurnished and just over 220,000 for a furnished residence. We have one of the Bella homes, which is one of the beautiful new homes right on the ocean, right in front of the Ava homes, just under $500,000 for that. And it's truly spectacular. But if you're able to join us, we can certainly show you those while on the tour. Otherwise, we can send you some photos if that's of interest. But the best way to get a hold of us for anything we've been talking about is that webinar at ecidevelopment.com. So just let us know. Another question commonly get is this recorded? Yes, of course, this is recorded. We will send out a follow-up so that you guys can look it over. I know, Mike talking about it's like trying to drink water out of a fire hose. So you really have to pay attention. And that's why we want to make sure you guys have that recording so you can follow along.
And by the way, we also have a Nicaragua handbook. Right. We definitely did the fire hose thing today. And, but if you'd like to get a copy of our Nicaragua handbook, we can send that to you as well. It's a PDF. It's free. You can download it, and it'll kind of cover a lot of the things that we talked about the country, more so than Gran Pacifica, because the handbook is really about the country. But if you're interested in Nicaragua, it's a great resource.
Yep. And we do have quite a lot of questions. So Mike, maybe we could just kind of speed through some of these and get as many of them answered live as possible. But
sure.
I know you mentioned about the climate. Could you just touch on rainy season and really kind of talk about the difference between the seasons versus some of the other parts of Central America?
Yeah, the Pacific coastline starting in Mexico is desert, right? You think about Cabo and kind of the Mexican desert along the coast, and by the time you get down to Panama, it's jungle, right? It's jungle at the beach. And Costa Rica is really where it kind of switches over. The very northern part of Costa Rica is semi-arid. The southern part of Costa Rica turns into jungle. Nicaragua is fairly arid. Again, you have 7 or 8 months. So think from Thanksgiving until about now, July, August. I mean, you get some rain in May and June in Nicaragua, and it actually hasn't been a pretty heavy rainy May and June. But from December to May, almost no rain. I mean, you might go 3 months with not a drop of rain. So it's very, very dry. June, July, and August, typically some rain, but not a lot. September, October, and November. Those are the 3 rainy seasons. And what it really has to do with is the tropical systems, whether it's a tropical depression or hurricanes that come across the Caribbean, because they spin countercyclically, they bring water from the Pacific up across the country, and it can rain, and it does rain, and you might get 3-4 days of rain. If there's a hurricane kind of tracking across through the Caribbean, it'll suck moisture up across the Pacific for 3 or 4 days. So typically we see that in September, October, and by November it's starting to dry out. So I hope that answered the question. The handbook has a lot more information about the specific geography, rainfall by month, temperature by month. It's got a lot of great data like that in there.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, the next question has to do with animals. I think people always love bringing their animals, and I don't know if you know the necessary needed things for animals, but I can weigh in on it a little bit if you'd like. Otherwise, I turn
Go
it over
ahead.
to you.
No, that's great.
I
Yeah.
know that some of my previous clients have brought their pets with them. I don't know the necessary vaccinations off the top of my head, but there is a specific one. I don't have an animal myself, so haven't lived that firsthand. But yes, it has been done, and some of our homeowners have brought their animals. I know Mike talked about, Grant and Sasha. They have their dog Whiskey that they brought with them. So certainly doable. But if you want that information specifically, we can certainly send it to you. Just let us know in that.
Right. And we took our dog with us when we moved there. And we actually brought a dog home with us when we came back, not the same dog, but so yeah, it is possible. And it's actually fairly straightforward. You just have to follow all the rules. But yes, we can get you connected with a vet or somebody who can help you with that specifically.
Great. Thank you. A couple questions kind of have a theme of politics, and one question in particular, which I think is quite interesting, is someone asks, what are the government policies in Nicaragua that have resulted in such a low crime rate? I know you have some opinions on that, maybe. So you take
Yeah. Look, I think a lot of the crime throughout, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador is different now. President Bukele really did an incredible job of cracking down on crime. El Salvador's crime rate went from one of the highest in the world to one of the lowest in the region in a span of about a year. So, policies matter. Bukele, took a very, very aggressive stance against the gangs, basically. In Nicaragua, you just don't have a lot of drug violence. You don't have competing gangs, fighting it out like you do in Mexico. You have all the different gangs and cartels, vying for very lucrative business, right? The drug business, very, very lucrative. And in Nicaragua, you don't. In Costa Rica, you don't. And in Panama, you don't. And so what you really see is a very low crime rate, I think, as a direct result of that. The lack of a big drug business, I guess, is the best way to say that. Yeah.
Okay, and to switch gears just a little bit, some questions coming in regarding children. I know you raised 2 daughters there, so if you could give maybe a little bit more insight on schooling, activities, medical coverage for them, things like that, that would be great.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of medicine. I mean, we did a bunch of different kinds of medicine. There's the traditional medicine at one of the a phenomenal world-class hospital, the Vivian Pellis. It is a world-class medical center. They have a burn center that they fly people in from all over Central and even South America for. Like it is the burn center for the entire region of Central and part of South America. So top-notch traditional medical care. They have a Japanese center that my family used quite a bit. Much more on the holistic side of things, with everything from massage to acupuncture to different types of therapies with natural ingredients. Natural Laser is a great store, and the folks there work a lot with the folks at the Japanese center. So again, you've got the whole range. You've got acupuncture, you've got chiropractic, you've got traditional medicine. All of it is unbelievably affordable. Really, just to get a massage at the Japanese center, I think is maybe $10, $12. It's probably gone up a little bit. Maybe it's $12 now, right? I don't know. But just so inexpensive. And traditional medicine, if you go to get an x-ray, it's $30 or $35. Insurance, if you want traditional medicine insurance, there's some great expat plans. One is by a company called Bupa, B-U-P-A. It's based out of Miami. They do everything from air ambulance services to full coverage. I like it because it's true insurance, right? If you get hit by a bus, and you got to go have, every bone in your body set and you're in, your body cast for 3 months in the hospital, they pay for that, right? So it's insurance. A lot of the hospitals have their own little insurance programs, which are very specific to that hospital. It's like a club membership, so to speak, but you pay $100 a month or something and you get half off everything. So depending on what you're looking for, again, the whole range of types of medicine, but all of it would fit under the one umbrella of exceptionally affordable. Dental care too. In fact, I'm gonna have my teeth cleaned before the I'm going down a day early and I'm getting my teeth cleaned, Joe. I mean, like that's where I do my dentistry work now, right? I walk in, I get my teeth cleaned, and it's $30. It's less than my copay in the US. I walk in, I don't wait. I get my teeth cleaned, I walk out. I mean, it's so convenient, right? And that's the other thing, it's convenient.
Yeah, I'm no medical expert, but that sounds like how it should be. So,
Yep.
and
Yeah, exactly.
anyways, there's a question that came in about whether or not this community is for retirees primarily. The gentleman says, "I'm a young single guy. What is nightlife life like? What city is this development in?" So maybe could you just touch about demographics and the things to do in the area?
Absolutely. If you're a young guy and you want bars and activity, Gran Pacifica is not for you. Just straight up. Come visit. Love to have you come see it. Right. I mean, come meet some really interesting, fun people, but it's probably not the place that you would want to live in Nicaragua. You might want to live in Granada, which has a lot of expats. You might want to live in San Juan del Sur, which is, the big party town, right, at the beach. So I think, coming to Nicaragua and, going around a little bit, checking out some different places, you'll figure out what's a good fit for you. But no, Grand Pacific is not really a retiree community. We have some retirees. We have a lot of full timers, but many of the people who are full timers are truly, remote workers. They are the digital nomads. I mean, we had digital nomads before that was even a word. I mean, we have a guy that's been living down there off and on. He spends 3 months down, 3 months back and forth, kind of on a rolling 3 months, right? I think he worked at one point. He worked for Cisco Systems, but I don't know if he still does or not. But I mean, I mean, he's a surfer. He comes down when the waves are great, and he lives there for 3 months, and he surfs, and he uses the fiber optic network to his house. I mean, he's been doing that for 15 years at this point, right? So a lot of the folks are younger, right? But there's no huge party nightlife at Gran Pacifica yet. I mean, give it another decade, there probably will be. But today there's not. It's a quiet community. It's an hour away from Managua, where there really is a ton of nightlife. But again, that's such an experiential thing that coming down to visit, maybe come down and spend a month in Nicaragua if you can do that, right? And just spend, a week in like 4 different places, Granada, Managua. Come out to Gran Pacifica for a week, check it out. You might find that it does flip your button. It probably wouldn't if you like to party, but anyway, and then San Juan del Sur. And my guess is at the end of a month, you'd have a pretty good sense of what would be a good fit for you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. There's another question. You touched a little bit upon food on the property, but what about the water? Where does that come from? Do you have a well? How clean is the water? If you could just touch on that too.
Absolutely. So water, we are the water utility. We are a licensed utility by the government of Nicaragua. Sadly, I mean, whatever, we have to put chlorine in it. And I know a lot of people don't like that. It's okay. You can use a filter to get it out. I use a Berkey filter here at home to get the chlorine and stuff out of my water. We do not fluorinate, by the way. There is no fluorine, but we have to chlorinate to be a licensed water provider in the country. It is well water. It's very, very clean. It's a wonderful, I mean, it's a wonderful aquifer. So Great clean water. And if you don't like the chlorine, filtration system of some point, some kind to get that out.
Awesome. I see a question that's asking about where to fly in. So the international airport is forget the full name for it, but the abbreviation code is MGA. That's right in Managua. From there, takes about an hour and a half, hour 45 to get from there right out to the property. But because you got to cut through right through Managua, the city, which depending on traffic can take a little bit. But from the edge of Managua, which is where the largest grocery store to the property, the La Colonial, it's about 50 minutes, 55 minutes. So if you need to provision and you want super specific things that you might be accustomed to, you can get easily access to that. Otherwise, Mike said you can use the farmer markets and things like that.
And they take orders. The farmer's market, Mike, and I don't remember the other guy's name, but Mike's the guy that comes every week. I mean, like, tell them what you want. Oh, I need beef. I need chicken. I need pork. I need eggs. I need cheese. Right. I mean, like, a lot of the vegetables are pretty much, what they're growing, and there's some consistency to it, but there's also some variableness to what's being harvested at any given moment. But you can request, and they do a great job of providing those other supplemental food products as well. But if you said, hey, look, I want to make sushi and I need some seaweed wrappers, right? Yeah, that's 50 minutes. That's 45, 50 minutes. You can be at the supermarket. You can get seaweed sushi wrappers to make sushi, which you might, because you're going to get your tuna and your other mahi mai. They call it dorado, but anyway, you're going to get your fresh fish right up the beach. So you may be wanting to make some sushi. Yeah.
And I see we're kind of running out of time here, and there's still a lot of questions. If we don't get to them, we will certainly get to them in the follow-ups. Some themes, Mike, about maybe financing. I know you briefly mentioned it. Could you just kind of speak to that a little bit about an option for folks when it comes to financing?
Absolutely. So, make it real short and sweet. We have anything up to 80% financing available on any of the homes, any of the properties. So you can put 20% down. We work with the bank in Belize that will provide most of that financing. We, the developer, may carry a little bit of it as well. But the specifics of the financing would be specifics to the property. So anyway, if you have something you're interested in, Joe and the folks at the bank can certainly help put that together and give you some numbers to look at.
Great, Mike. I'm seeing a few questions asking about Spanish. I know you speak Spanish, but are you able to get by living there without knowing Spanish?
When I moved to Nicaragua, I spoke no Spanish, none. And what I call survival Spanish. If you're trying to figure out survival Spanish, the basic numbers, more or less, yes, no, bathroom, that's a good one, bathroom. When you're my age, anyway. I think that you can very quickly get up to speed on that. I would recommend people go knowing a little bit of Spanish, do the Duolingo or the, Rosetta Stone or something before you go, so you at least have some baseline. But you can literally get around Nicaragua with little or no Spanish. The trade-off is it'll be a little bit more expensive, right? If you go to the very, very local farmer's market and you need to talk, you don't actually at the farmer's market. You pick up the plantains and the watermelon, and and they can put the calculator or their phone out and type some numbers in, right? And, oh, it's telling me, okay, good, right? So you can actually do a whole lot of living without speaking any of the language. But a little bit of language is good. And I would just suggest, kind of beefing up before you get there. But yeah, you can live in Nicaragua without speaking Spanish. I am proof of that. So, yeah.
And I'm seeing a few questions coming in about, living on your property full time versus property management. We do have property management that's there. I mean, if you want to live in your home for a couple months of the year, like Mike said, we have a gentleman that does that frequently. But yeah, we have a team in place that can take care of that, so you don't have to worry about your place when you're not there. Yes. Let's see.
One more question, Joe.
Yeah.
I gotta jump at 6. But
I think you kind of briefly touched on it, but I think it is quite important. I'm seeing a couple that are talking about it, but medical care. Could you really kind of dive into, and you talked a little bit about the dental earlier, but what about for medical care, emergencies, things like that? Just because, I think that's a big concern for folks when living somewhere.
Sure. So I just spent a family vacation. I drove from Las Vegas up through Yellowstone and back across, Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, right? And I can assure you, there are places out there that are farther away from medical care than you would be to medical care in Gran Pacifica, right? You're an hour and 15 minutes from one of the top hospitals in all of Central America, in Managua. There are clinics closer. If you get, if you break an arm, get run over by a car and you need stabilized, there's some clinics closer. There's a great hospital in Managua. And if you are the kind of person who says, I got to be, 15 minutes from the hospital because that I need that kind of medical care, I'm that concerned about it, then you may want to live in Managua. I lived in Managua for 14 years. I know it gets a bad rap. People like, you lived in Managua yeah, I lived in Managua. It was wonderful, right? So if being close to a hospital is important, then locate yourself next to a hospital. Gran Pacifica's, 15, 20 minutes from a clinic, an hour and 15 minutes from a hospital, and an air ambulance, 2-hour air ambulance ride to Houston or Miami. And I would get the Bupa insurance just to have that if that's a concern. We had it, we carried it. It was great. It was very, very affordable. I don't remember what we paid, but it was ballpark. I mean, we had a family of 4 with a maternity rider, and I think it was about $4,000 a year. So in the US, I have no clue what that would cost. But anyway, but that covers, everything. It's 100% coverage, right? So again, depending on your specific medical condition, your medical concerns, you would want to adjust where you live in relationship to a medical facility that works for you. Joe, I got to go, man. This was great. Listen, and thank you all for joining. I know there's more questions. I just saw a thing that popped up. It said, a couple more questions. Joe will get you answers to all of the questions. If there are things that he can't answer, he will forward them to me. He and I will talk about them. We will get you answers. I would highly encourage you to grab a copy of the Nicaragua handbook. Just send an email to the webinar at ecidevelopment.com. Nicaragua handbook, we'll get that to you. We'll get answers to all of your specific questions. And I hope that many of you will decide to come visit, because in the end, this is all just academic. It's all blah, blah, blah. We're just talking today. Your experience, your eyes, your feet on the ground, right? That's the important piece of the puzzle, to see if it's really the place that could be right for you. And a visit is truly the only way to really sound that out and to know it. So I hope many of you will decide to visit Nicaragua. Again, the worst thing that'll happen is you'll have a great fun vacation. You'll meet some really cool, fun people. The best thing that could happen is you might say, wow, like it's nothing like I thought it was. I can't believe it. Let me decide, to become an owner somewhere in the country and become a neighbor. Joe, got to go, man.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone,
Thanks,
for your
man.
time, and we'll be sending out the recording and some more information shortly. Bye.